Hello, Guardians, old and young and all sorts of what's it? My name is Memphis, and today I'm going to be dropping you my top 12 list for Destiny Supers throughout the ages. If you're wondering about why 12, it's because I'm including all the supers that were taken out before Destiny 2, because they still technically count. Just a quick 3 points, though, before I begin the video proper. Number one, I have done all these supers, all the classes, a fair amount of time, so I somewhat know what I'm doing. Number two, this just because, if I say your super is like number 10 on this list, that doesn't mean your super is bad. It means other supers are better. That's just my opinion. And the third most important point, this is all my opinion. Therefore, you can debate in the comments all you want. I will accept any discourse that you have to give. Enough talking. Let's go down with this list. Number 12, the Ward of Dawn. The Ward of Dawn is a Titan super which, upon activation, forms a bubble shield. Now, this super, I just have to say, has no method of actually damaging an opponent. The only way you can actually make it hurt your opponent is if you have the Helm of Same 14 on and it blinds people that come into it. So, in terms of usefulness on the battlefield, it's fairly limited. Especially the fact that if you're in this bubble shield, your opponent has their super ready or something, they can just waltz right into the bubble shield and just destroy it. It's a pretty simple thing to do. However, I'm going to give 1 point to the Ward of Dawn, and that it is the one super you absolutely always wanted to have going into a raid, because you can buff people who go into your shield to give them more armor, more damage, all that stuff. It's just the fact that it doesn't do any damage, puts it on the bottom of this list. Number 11, the Sentinel. Another Titan super. This super, when activated, gives you a little shield on your arm and you run around throwing it at people. It's pretty simple. It doesn't go much more than that. The Sentinel shield it's from Destiny 2. It was the new super replacing the Ward of Dawn. And honestly, it's not all that impressive. I mean, very few people use it. It's usable. I mean, the fact that you can throw the shield and it bounces off targets is nice. However, the fact is it's pretty lame, and it's basically just a downgraded form of another super we're going to see later on this list. The only reason I put it above the Ward of Dawn is because you can actually put down a bubble shield with this. However, most people do the double shield throw anyway, so there you go. Number 10, the Dawn Blade. How in the heck does Bungie screw up a flaming angel with a sword? Honestly. This super from the Warlock class, upon activation, sends you flying into the air and you have a fire sword. You can send sword beams spinning down on your opponent. There are several problems with this super. Number one, the blade beams are fairly slow. In order for them to actually hit things effectively, you kind of need to be closer to your target, which is kind of counterintuitive to what the super does. Also, the fact that it makes you hover in midair and makes you a huge target. Your opponent can just, pop you in the head right out of the air. So, while it looks pretty damn cool, and it's technically sort of better than what we used to have, in a way, kind of, we'll get to that. The Dawn Blade is really not that impressive. Number 9, the Arc Strider, another new super from Destiny 2. This super, upon activation, gives you a pole. Gives you a battle pole that your hunter can use to run around and smack people in the head. Now, Arc Strider is interesting. While it gives you a bit of, maneuverability, you can do some crazy dodges, and it does hit rather fast. This super is just rather unimpressive compared to not only, other hunter supers, but also to other supers in general. Again, it does the job. It does the job rather well, but it's just so unimpressive on itself. Also, I had to take off points because the nickname of this super is the Pole Dancer, and that's enough said right there. Number 8, the Arc Blade. This hunter super, upon activation, gives you a little lightning knife that you can run around and stab people with. This is the super that Arc Strider replaced, and well, to be honest, the Arc Strider is technically an upgrade, giving you more reach and more maneuverability. However, there is a bit of history to the Arc Blade that gives it reason to stand out above Arc Strider. Originally, the Arc Blade wasn't all that impressive. Once activated, you could run and stab people with it. However, it's, you know, you had to run right at people and they could just, you know, shoot you. However, during a brief period in Destiny's history during the Crucible, the Bungie team decided to tweak Arcblade just slightly so that when activated, it turned you invisible. However, this had the opposite effect, and in fact turned Arcblade into an actual horror show, because when activated and turning you invisible, you cannot tell an invisible Arcblade user from an invisible regular hunter. And therefore, they can just run up to you and start slashing you to bits with their knives. I miss this super quite a bit, and, you know, we are getting a revamp in Forsaken, so I'm going to look forward to that, I tell you what. Number 7, the Stormcaller. Another Warlock super. This super upon activation gives you, well, it turns you into a Sith Lord, basically. You can shoot lightning out of your hands. The Stormcaller, originally appearing in Destiny the Taken King, this super took the world by storm, pun totally intended, and just wrecked everybody's shit. This super is excellent at clearing out a room full of enemies as it chain lightnings and just wrecks everybody. And it's an absolute terror in the Crucible as the sound of electrical crackling warns your opponents that they are about to get wrecked. Not to mention that you can ground pound lightning upon activation, and it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice super, and I like it. I appreciate it. It's what I main on my own Warlock. I enjoy it very much. The only downside I can think of is that the damage takes place over time, therefore your opponent has some chance of recovering. However, another good point is that you can actually teleport while doing this, so it's pretty neat. Number 6, the Hammer of Soul. A Titan super. When activated, it gives you a flaming hammer that you can proceed to chuck at your opponent. The Hammer of Soul, yet another super from Taken King, took the entire Destiny community for a loop. It just wrecked the Crucible. People were blowing up everywhere because this hammer blows up everything in its path, sets everything on fire, sets the meme world on fire. It's just unstoppable. The only thing that is potentially a problem is that it's, you know, it's a lob sort of weapon, so you kind of need to be close to mid-range to use it effectively. But otherwise, the Hammer of Soul is a fun time no matter what you get. Also, it's referred to as the Hammer Bro, and you can see from this image why that is. Getting into the top 5, we got number 5, the Sun Singer. This Destiny 1 super for Warlocks activates, and you get a temporary super boost to all your abilities, allowing you to chuck grenades and throw fiery fists as often as you please. This super is infamous. Okay, let me explain. Back during Destiny 1, we had a thing called the Trials of Osiris. You remember that old dude? Yeah, that guy. And during this very, very competitive series of battles, the Sunsinger gained its infamy. You see, one of the abilities of Sunsinger is that when activated, it can bring you back from the dead, basically. You can activate it when you're dead, you will come back and start lobbing grenades. And when you're playing super competitive matchmaking and, you know, you finally kill all your opponent's team members, and then one of them comes back and starts throwing, you know, one shot, one kill sticky grenades at you, it's no fun for anybody, and that is why it was later replaced with the Dawnblade it said earlier. So, the Sunsinger certainly earned its place in infamy. I mean, being able to lob a whole bunch of sticky one-shot grenades, like I said, is just ridiculous. The Flaming Fists, even more so. So, yeah, Sunsinger earns its spot as number 5 on this list. Number 4, the Striker Titan. As I said just a second ago, this is the Titan super, the OG Titan super, which basically just allows you to run around cloaked in lightning and slamming into things. This super was ridiculous back in Destiny 1. Upon activation, you just slam right into the ground. Almost no time between activation and effect happening, and it just destroys everything in the room. You can have it do all sorts of things. You can have an invincible shield. You can have a trail of lightning every time you slam. And in Destiny 2, they upped it because now you can do a little quickie, you know, strafing sort of attack, which just adds to it. The Striker Titan is the mainstay of the Titan arsenal, and it is an absolute beast to go up against. So if you ever run into a Striker Titan, be very, very, very careful. The top 3 starts with the Nova Bomb. This Warlock Super, upon activation, lobs a giant kill ball at your opponent, and then it explodes. A lot of these supers explode now I realize about it. Yes, so the Nova Bomb is another one of those infamous supers from Destiny 1 that just wrecks everybody. Much like the Striker Titan, the activation and then effect of this super are very close to one another, meaning there's very little you can do to stop your opponent from activating it. And so, once again, on top of that, the original Nova Bomb had the ability to split the projectile into 3, destroying enemies in a wide area. In Destiny 2, however, they decided for some reason to buff this by turning the Nova Bomb into a Seeker missile, which follows you around, explodes, and then releases a bunch of smaller explosives that also can kill you in one shot. The only downside to those two downsides to the Nova Bomb. Number one, you can shoot the Nova Bomb and detonate it earlier. Granted, this takes a lot of bullets, especially if you're like right next to the thing when it goes off. You're probably going to die regardless. But the number two is the Seeker is not perfect. You can just duck around a corner and the ball will just detonate on a wall and do pretty much nothing. So yeah, while it is pretty powerful, the Nova Bomb, it has its faults. Much like our next, number 2, the Golden Gun. This Hunter super, upon activation, gives you a flaming gun that one-shots opponents with ease. This is personally my favorite super, by the way, and you can see this has been a super since the beginning. Everyone loves the Golden Gun. It just takes out enemies, it blows up the enemies that it destroys. It's precision damage, so you can do all sorts of damage to high-level enemies. The Celestial Nighthawk is a thing. Please rest in peace, oh mighty one. And with the new Destiny 2 buff, you can actually fire 6 shots in succession, which is pretty dang nice, I gotta say. The only problem, and I'm sorry for all of you for nitpicking, but this is the only problem with the Golden Gun, its hitbox is very, very small, like the size of a regular bullet. So if you miss, you're kind of screwed, and you can miss rather easily if you're being shot at, of course. So take care. And now, I'm sure you are very curious, but here is number 1. Thank you for everybody who has stuck with us so far. And if you just skipped to this part of the video, well, that's fine too. Number 1, of course, goes to the Night Stalker. Now, this Hunter super, upon activation, gives you a bow made out of dark light, which fires arrows that anchor your opponents to the ground and, wrecks the shit. The Night Stalker, introduced in The Taken King, when it activates its power, fires these arrows, which are not technically designed to kill themselves, but rather to tie your opponent down to the ground, where you proceed to finish them off. While that may not sound as impressive as some of the supers on this list, there are 3 good reasons why Night Stalker is better than all the other supers. Number 1, it stops all other supers. Like, the Void Tethers actually negate your opponent's supers when they're using them, prevents them from using those supers, and prevents them from using class abilities like grenades and punches. So there you go, right there. Night Stalker is already better than them by that league. Number 2, the Night Stalker can produce a ridiculous number of motes of light. For those of you who don't play, motes of light are used in-game in order to fuel your super. So when you have a super that makes more motes of light, granted only for your teammates, but still, when it makes more motes of light, it's automatically better, because you use this super, and then the motes of light drop, and then your teammates gather those motes, use their supers, make more motes that you use to make more arrows. It's just an endless supply of light and destruction. There you go. And the third the third point in general is that anything tethered by the Night Stalker takes more damage. So you heard that right. The tether makes your supers do more damage to the enemy. So not only is the Night Stalker the super you want on your team, it's the super you don't want to run into. And that is why the Night Stalker is, in my opinion, the number 1 super.